I'd like
Yes.
to
One more
say
thing.
one thing, is that we have to be aware that there's been a truth embargo. I mean, there has been. So now we know. Now we know. And it's up to us to uncover all the mysteries that are there. And for Jeff, you were given a certain task. I was given a certain task. Everyone in their own soul has a purpose in this life. And if we start to follow that purpose, that truth embargo will disappear. I'm sure of that. You know, and I'm also really a proponent of world meditation, where you know, the positive is emphasized, and where we create the positive, because I believe that there are negative energies, whether they're aliens or something else, demonic or something else. But I do believe that there's a positive and a negative that's operating on Earth right now, and so we just have to follow our purpose. And I think
I
we
just
all
want
have.
to acknowledge how beautifully Summer expressed what he said. I thought his words were very powerful and resonated very powerfully with me. I know personally I'm guilty of focusing on the conspiracies and the negative. I have more to say maybe another time, but I want to leave this conversation at a very high level, and I applaud Jeff, I applaud Mimi for what she just said. But Summer, you really did yourself proud, particularly in contrast to our previous exchanges when you showed a different level of verbal acuity. So I want to applaud what Summer just said. Those who were here know what I'm talking about.
Great, Shecky. Great. Thanks, buddy. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Summer. That was awesome. Yeah, I agree, Summer. That was great. Well said. Well said, Summer.
Thank you.
Ian.
Yeah, Jeff, I just wanted to emphasize as well what Brian said previously, and what Shecky was saying. The book that you've put out, you've steered away from the speculation aspect, and that puts your book squarely in an academic category. You've been very careful all the way through to just record what you experienced for yourself. And I think that is what's very important in this contact case, is that this is purely Jeff's experiences of what has happened to him and what he's found out about his own experiences. So I applaud Jeff for steering clear of speculation and not going down any alleys that would lead anywhere else. He's just put it out there, and it's up to the reader to make the speculation, but based on the evidence that Jeff provides. So thank you for that. Also wanted to mention about the Crabwood Formation. At the Crabwood Formation, I believe the message in the binary code is we oppose deception as well, which is a good message to take on board. Right. And one final thing, I liked it when Kristen came in and said, "What was the deal with the cow?" I remember when you first showed us that picture, and I said, "What's that in the bottom corner there, Jeff?" And he said, "Oh, it's just a dead cow. I don't know why it's there." And you'd included that level of detail in your drawing because you experienced it. But at that time, you were unaware that other people had also witnessed dead cows on board craft. And as many of you know, I work with Linda Moulton Howe from Earth Files. Very privileged to do so, and she's researched the animal mutilation phenomena for
You're breaking up
43 years. I'm sorry about the poor audio over here. We're still experiencing some difficulties because of the storm. So anyway, that's basically what I wanted to say, that this was again further evidence, as far as I was concerned, that Jeff had a real experience on board the craft.
Right. And another corroboration there too was people who had seen gray aliens in the area of cattle mutilations had seen two beings, like they were working together. And that's what this is, the twins, right? And there was a cow on the twin craft. Yeah. It's another always strange, weird connecting pieces that you don't expect. Yeah. It's great, man. Thank you. Go ahead, Summer.
I don't know if anyone's a Star Trek: The Next Generation fan, but I've
seen every single one of them. Yes.
Yeah, me too. Oh my God, I've seen them at least twice, if not more than that.
Yeah.
Do you remember the episode Cause and Effect, where the Enterprise is stuck in a feedback loop kind of, and it's like a Groundhog Day kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's they try to save themselves because they remember a little bit from each loop. So they go into this pattern where they self-destruct and then they repeat again, and then they self-destruct and they repeat again. But every now and then there's clues from the last cycle. So they're trying to help themselves survive it. And on the final time, there was like this 3 symbol that kept appearing in everything that Data did. And it was like through everything he did, they were sending themselves a signal, 3, 3. Nobody knew what it meant, but when the time came, he looked over at Commander Riker's like three stars,
Brilliant.
and he was like,
good.
because he was going to make the decision, the crucial choice at that moment to go in one direction. But Commander Riker's decision was actually the correct decision to make. And when he looked up and he saw the 3 stars, he changed his own mind and went with his decision. And finally, the cycle ended. And that is something that I was thinking about when you start talking about this symbol of 2s. I'm like, maybe in many senses, like these beings, they're just they're almost symbols for certain levels of our own consciousness that we're not yet fully in touch with. So they might be sending us signals, not so much for their story, but for our own, that when the time comes, we'll have some understanding of what that crucial thing is that we need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And that's what I was thinking when you were talking about the 2s, because I remember having something really similar as when I first woke up. And it was 2, but there was a third one that would always come a little bit after. And it was like 1, 2, and then 3 always a little bit later. And I saw it for a long period of time, but I never knew what it meant. And after a while, it just sort of faded out. And it reminds me like exactly of what you're talking about. So I was just kind of, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add to that, but that was something that stuck out in my mind.
Right. Well, I kind of just said it as it is in the presentation. Like, yeah, it's for us, right? It's not something, it was not something about them. It was a message. And you kind of said it well there too. It's not like it's something for them, it's something for us. And I really, that's the only thing I can go off of intuitively, that it was about us and them. But again, I said it to my shamanic friend, and he made a point that having the 2 of everything, driving the craft twice, going to a space base twice, interacting with the mantis twice, seeing the Federation twice, allows me to talk about those things. And that is a shamanic practice. So, and some people, I think I think Crystal has said here that, and I think that was corroborated, that that the beings will call themselves sometimes like shamans or something. They'll call themselves, I don't know what the word was, but they use a shamanic word to describe themselves. And so it does sometimes, and I've mentioned this before, that they sometimes have an indigenous archetype. Like there really does seem to be an indigenous, alien indigenous thing going on here. And that archetypes of indigenous are actually universal, and the beings really kind of embody that stuff. So having a kind of a shamanic idea of doing things twice so they get embedded in you could actually be what it is. It could be a shamanic practice in their behalf, or it could just be this symbol. Again, I just leave it up. I don't explain this. That symbol, by the way, is not even in the book. I don't talk about it in the book in any way. I just, one of those things there's too much detail and I have to leave it out of the book. But so it's one of those things people can figure out for themselves what it means. Yeah.
I think it's very interesting that you put out the book in 2022. Well, right?
Oh, Mimi, good one. Yes. And also Brian pointed out, Brian and Ian,
and
both
February, and almost the 20th of February.
Well done. Yeah, no one. Yeah, well done. Those are guys. See, I didn't plan this stuff. This is crazy. Yeah. And then Brian, you pointed out that when I rolled the 44, which is in my story, and then actually it's one of the titles of the section, that I'd be releasing my book when I was 44. So that's there's some strange numbers in there. And then there are some others. There's dates. I mentioned the date every time I go traveling. I leave a location and there's a date. And though I was aware what I was doing at the time, there are synchronistic events that happen later that are all around the same date, the 21st. Anyway,
and
there's
look
all
at
these
the date
symbols.
Today, Jeff, this is February the 19th, and I published this book on February the 19th, 12 years ago in 2010. So the same year of the tiger, I guess.
Right.
The Chinese calendar. Yeah. So my second book, February 19th.
I've read that book and it's a fabulous book. I love it.
That's great. Yeah, great. Guys, 2022. Yeah, 2002. Yeah. Very wow.
I was gonna actually one more thing, like what you said just there, one thing in particular, that there's 2 people that need to drive the craft. That thing kind of means something to me
Oh,
because
no, I drove the craft twice, not two people driving the craft. I personally drove the craft twice and two separate contact events.
Okay.
Yeah, no, they didn't. I didn't see that two people needed to drive a craft, but I drove a craft twice. Yeah.
Okay.
Listen, I'm going to sign off soon. I wanted to thank Brian and Mimi for hosting another excellent presentation. Jeff, you were fabulous. Your book, I'm confident, is going to do very well and impact a lot of people in a very favorable way. The group did wonderfully today. I would love to hear from other people. If I don't hear other people volunteering to speak, I will leave soon. But I did enjoy every second of this conversation and applaud it to the max. So thank you all.
Thanks, Shaky, for being here. Thank you. Great. Awesome.
Thanks, Shaky.
Thanks. It's awesome. Whew.
Well, I was looking around for any other questions. No raised hands.
Well, after I read the book, I'm sure I'm going to have some questions, but I just ordered it now and I have to get through the whole thing to understand the whole experience. And then if I have any questions, maybe a follow-up meeting a couple of months from now could be a good thing.
Yeah, I'll be doing more presentations with Vancouver UFO. No problem. You got it. Yeah. Awesome.
I'll just say something just to maybe further sell the book. You guys all have access to Jeff personally, and to have like an actual contact case that you can read and really get in depth with, but then have somebody that is in your group that you can actually discuss the experiences with is like invaluable. So I think that's a further reason to maybe like everyone pick up like a copy and like just get involved in this and talk to Jeff and reach out and ask questions, like argue even if you need to, like disagree, just to further strengthen our own understandings personally, like each onto ourselves. So I think that's like a very valuable thing for us to like pursue.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, man. Travis had his hand up and then pulled it back. Did you want to speak, Travis?
Yeah, hi Jeff. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I love Spider-Man. Great.
Thanks. A good presentation.
Thanks.
So,
man.
yeah. So you said you were driving the craft. Do you remember driving the craft? Or
Yes, I remember driving the craft. Yeah.
Do you? Yeah. Where did you go? Like,
where did I go?
Do you remember where you went?
Yeah. No. Yes. Where did I go?
I was just curious.
Yeah. No, it's a great question. So the first time was on Hornby Island. So by the way, as you say, do I remember? The entire book is all the contact events laid out in detail. Like the memories are there. They really seem to say your memories are open now, and then that process took a bit of time to get them out, but they were there and I had access to them all. So I do, yeah, I have memory for everything I can speak of. I have memories of all the detail about that. So yes. So in the case of the driving the craft, the first time was off of a contact event I had on Hornby Island, here in the BC, and I basically went to a space. It was after the Rising. It was 1998 or spring of 1998. So it was just after the Rising, just after I had this thing that we had been building up towards, and it was very traumatic, awakening to the memory of my relationship to them, and we go to this base in space. And there was a biological bunch of stuff that happened there. And then they said, where do you want to go? And I said, I want to see where you live. Like, so there was an exchange. Everything is also not just an agreement, but there was always an exchange. There was always, we'll do something and then you get something out of it. So in this case, they gave me the opportunity to learn about them. So I said, I want to know where you live. So then they said, okay. And so the elder lived on Venus. So that was, even to this day, I don't even say it properly because I'm just like, but it's Venus. Like they have some kind of city or base or something on Venus. And then when I get in the craft, surprisingly, it's actually it's a humanoid. So the elder kind of separates from me, and it's a humanoid who I'm with. And he says, okay, I'll take you there. And they're kind of like being very friendly, and they're trying to like make me feel good. And then he says, oh, you'll drive the craft. And so I got an opportunity to drive the craft. Now, an interesting corroboration here is, so I learned this after Susie Hansen was on Grant Cameron's show, and she mentioned a connection that her research is finding, that everyone who's ever driven a craft actually has a telekinesis event before, where the beings get the human to practice telekinesis. So that's what I have. I have my sixth contact event. I have a telekinesis moment where I'm learning telekinesis on a craft, on this like device. And then that's the same type of experience that's driving the craft. It's like when you kind of link up, you kind of, it's the feeling of the brain is in the same spot, kind of, it's in the same area. And so I flew the craft from this space station to not to Venus, but to just the outside of Venus. And I was in these, it was just shots. It wasn't like I drove around like this. It was like, bah, bah. It was in these kind of shots. And one of the things he said was just look at where you want to go. I'm actually convinced the screen, I don't mention this in the book. I'm convinced the screen knows where you're looking, and then it says, okay. And it fires it to that said location. And I basically did these shots in the middle of space. And then the humanoid took over and he flew us down into the Venus. Then the second time I drive the craft is in my 26th or 23rd, 22nd contact event. That is, it's in Squamish. So I'm hiking and it's the end of our agreement. And so the elder says, like, this is the end of the agreement. This is where last time we'll see you for a while. And so it's this kind of dialogue we have. And then she says, is there anything you want from us? Again, it's that exchange feeling. And I said, I loved when I drove the craft. Can I drive the craft again? And she says, yes. So I get to drive the craft over the mountains behind Squamish. And I get to, and it's a triangle we form. And she basically kind of directs me. She says, okay, do this. And I push it's a joystick, not an actual hand pad this time. And I push the joystick and it moves on a straight plane, like it's on a road, like on the air, like a road was on the air. And it just drove flat and it was moving and I could see the screen. I could see the mountains and the valleys below. And then she's the one, and she uses weird wordings with me, right? I mentioned this, that her English language is sometimes, it's like she picked up English from something. And so she would say, use turn starboard. So I don't use the word starboard. She said starboard. And so I knew to turn, and so we form a triangle and then we come back to the location and that's it. So it's just this kind of joyride, if you will. And so, yeah, but I got to do that twice and it's very fascinating, man. Very fascinating stuff. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So I just one more question. Sorry.
Sure, yeah.
So you must have remembered this. You probably didn't remember at the time, but just through hypnosis, right? Regression.
So some of them, everything was a flashback. Everything starts with a flashback. Yeah. In both cases with the craft, it came out during a regression, that as I followed the flashback, like I could see that something had happened. I'd known I'd been in some room. I'd known I'd see these tubes with gray hybrids in them, though I wasn't an alien UFO guy, so I didn't know really what I was looking at. And then as I go into a regression that pulls out that flashback, I get all the detail. And not just that, but I get corroborations, right? I saw my name in a script in the regression. And then I found out that that's the same script used by Jim Sparks. And it matched my name written out in gray alien hybrid script, or whatever, or gray script. So there's these things that always show me that these aren't just, dreams. These are real events, right? They match other things that other people have seen and witnessed and talked about. And so that happened, and that's the same dream I drive the craft in. Not the dream, sorry, the same regression or the same memory I drive the craft in. And then the same thing with the 19th contact event. I known something had happened behind Squamish. I had flashbacks of being in that room in the craft and talking with the elder, but I was emotional during that one because it was the end and we were fighting. Not fighting, but I was fighting with them anyway. And so there's my emotions kind of make it a bit more challenging. And then a regression, it got pulled out and I kind of put together, I understood that had happened. I'd driven the craft and I remembered the details of that. So that's how that went.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Terry. Yeah. You mentioned that you went to Venus. Now I have astronomy in my background when I went to university.
Yes, yes.
And so when you were approaching Venus, what did you see initially? And as you were going through the atmosphere, what did you see?
Yeah, so check this out, Terry. So maybe you'll appreciate this. So when so I knew where Venus was in the solar system. And I known when I came out of the base, there was the sun, and then Venus was right there. I filmed myself. It was in a presentation. I think the presentation's still online. I filmed myself the day I find out April of 1998, Venus was in that spot on the Earth or in the solar system. So I was always really appreciative that I got that right. When I actually came up to it, the picture is a snowball. It's a snowball. It's largely white. And then when we get down into it, it is white filming into a musty, like a dirty orange, or like a dirty musty orange. And then when I'm in there, the whole thing is I don't know how much, like I saw the rocks and the crafts of the rocks and all the details while on the screen. But the big kicker is that I get out of the craft and I am not, anyway, I have to just tell it as it is, man. So I was able to be in the environment. So, and I kind of say that I was phased, though I don't really have the answer what was going on there, but I was in the environment and it looked like I shouldn't be able to be in that environment. It looked like it. I looked like I felt my normal self. Plus I had a biological interaction just before. So I definitely was there physically, but I'm assuming phased or something, some kind of space. So because the city also wasn't buried into the ground. That was another telling feature of this. The city kind of might have been like raised up a little bit, and the environment was just hellish. Like it had, I'm certain I saw like steam or something coming off the rocks. Like it had this kind of grotesque to it, but the sky was cloud and pure yellow. So it had this mustardy yellow sky, and it was I remember the memory of kind of wow, the fascination by it. And that's pretty much, and the clouds were actually going in between the buildings, showing me that we were not in some kind of dome, that there was atmosphere was, that's why I kind of lean towards a phasing, but I just don't know, man. I don't have the answers to how the hell that happened, but that's the gist of it. Yeah.
The other question I have is, you mentioned ET or alien language. Are you able to reproduce any of it?
Am I able to reproduce it?
Because I have a bunch of alien languages that I've collected over the years.
Interesting. So
well, let me just say, Jeff, you did recreate some of the characters in your book.
Yeah, they're in the book. Yeah, what I saw, my name in the alien script. Yeah, I saw that. So this is an interesting part of the story. So I actually mentioned that I don't know how I had that awareness. So I kind of explained it that I could read it by feeling, and so when I was looking at one of their tablets, I could somehow like understand it. But I'd witnessed their script before, and I wasn't able to do it. So I only now know from telepathic communication with them that there's an object in my brain. And I mean, this stuff just sounds a little crazy. And I just sounds totally insane. But the bottom line is that is what I was told. And then that just adds up to the entire picture of all my contact events, that there's an object in my brain and it's the one that actually allows me to read their script. And that they, yeah. So I don't know. It would be actually very fascinating to see if I could access that, or I've never tried. I don't know anybody who's got it in the script, and I would love to see if I could do that. I would, I think I may have to, because I can put myself into some kind of states with them and all this stuff. So I'd like to see that. I'd like to see if I can do that. Yeah, well, no one's asked me that actually before, so I like that.
Yeah, because I was just going to say that if you sent a sample, particularly where your name is, you understood it to be your name.
Yeah,
I'll compare it with what I have.
Oh, well, it's actually in the book. So here, one sec. I'll just show you the book, and you can take maybe a screenshot of it.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, Jeff, that just recently NASA disclosed that they found underground springs in Venus. They found water. So that was like about 3 weeks ago, I guess it came out. Oh, so that's very interesting that you saw all the steam and everything, because they discovered that.
Right. Very fascinating. So Terry, that's what I saw on a tablet. Okay. And then, oh, you're muted. You're muted. And then below, you're still muted. And then
Okay.
so that's what I saw. And then below it, I am compare it to Jim Sparks, which I learned much later. And my
Show me again.
yeah, that there.
And on the bottom part.
So that's the comparison of Jim's. I can't sorry. That's the comparison of Jim Sparks.
Okay, good. Got it.
Yeah, you can let me know. You can email me what you think. Yeah. So yeah, but it matched portions of his script, and that's what flew me off. Is I just was I was in this moment. I kind of drew it out. I didn't think twice. I was just gathering as much information as I could from the memories. And then, whatever, a month later or 2 months later, I saw it online, this Jim Sparks script. And I said, oh my God, it matches. Some portions of those match. So I found that really fascinating. So yeah, it's I would love to learn if I can get more out of that. So, and there's more that can be said there, but I'll leave it for the time being. It's fascinating.
So everybody, we're going into the third hour now.
Oh yeah.
And I just wanted to say, I don't mind if we continue, but does anyone need a break? Should we have a 5-minute break?
I'm gonna have to go and check out now. So I'd say thank you, Jeff. That was a brilliant presentation. Thank you for inviting me to speak, and I was honoured to do so. And it's been great to see everybody else here tonight. Yeah. I'll urge you all to come back again for the next show. So I'm going to be following you, Jeff, and looking forward to working with you in the future.
Yeah,
thank you, everyone.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you. Good night.
Great.
Thank you, Ian.
I do think I'm going to split soon too. I'm tiring out from the presentation, but yeah, I'll stick on for 4 more minutes. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Yeah. If anybody has burning questions, please do it now.
Ian is gone, but with his hand raised.
Thought I ask something.
Sure.
So you mentioned that you have something in your brain that helps you translate. Do you feel like you have some kind of other implants or something that they use?
I have 4. I'm a 4 because I have the memory of the event. 2 in my shin, 1 in my ear, one implanted up the nose, which they eventually talk more about in contact events. So I don't really know exactly what everything does, except I can kind of intuit that I think what I guess it does. I'm assuming the one on my right is on my right shin, sorry, is location, geographic, I guess, or GPS, whatever. The left seemed more it had goop when they were putting in my shin, on the left shin, and I assume only, I don't know why, I don't even know that these are real, but I just assume, I'm kind of have like an intuition about it, that it's biological, like they're kind of interested in what I'm eating, what I'm putting in my body. The ear, I'm certain they're listening, and I'm certain that they're listening to things. And then the nose is, I don't know if it helped with them obscuring the memories. I also know it has that, and I can read the language when it's activated, when it's on. And it also allowed them to box in things. So there are two events where it seems they do things to me, and then when I come back to the real world, if you will, they are able to kind of box that information in, or box that experience in, and then they activate it at a later time. And the activation might be after other contact events. So it shows me that they are very aware of this. They're very aware of putting information or putting stuff into you, and then they can activate it on their own. They can turn it on when they want it. And so there's two different things that happen in my 26 contact events that display an ability for them to program and then use it at a later time. So that's probably my best summary. And I've never been asked that, actually, and I've never summarized it that way. So I'm pretty certain that's the gist of it. I can't think of anything else my thoughts, right? That's the other thing. I do see my thoughts on a computer. So it's clearly taking, it's just completely invasive, right? It's the most invasive thing. They got everything I'm seeing, but they've also got everything I'm hearing, and they've also got everything I'm definitely thinking. And they've shown that to me, that it's all on a computer and all the thoughts are laid out. And the thoughts are like information packets. So I kind of assume it's like, I don't even know what the hell it is, man. It's some kind of imagery of the brain. I don't even know. And it may be my sight too, because I've had some strange experiences with their, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they put something into a pineal gland or in that area, could they do something with the vision as well too? I don't know. So that's the gist of what I get out of that brain implants that they can do.
That's pretty helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Never explained that before, so I appreciated that question. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I was just reading this in a book recently. Let's address the experience some of you have read about or have had having probes inserted into your craniums. We wish to tell you that the purpose of this is not for controlling you. These probes are organic in nature and will absorb neurochemicals from your brain.
Yeah.
When they are extracted, we analyze those neurochemicals. Through that analysis, we expect to achieve the ability to simulate your neurochemical secretions. Perhaps if we can simulate those neurochemical secretions, we will thus be able to recapture the identity of emotion. This is not in any way meant to harm you, to hurt you, to frighten you, or to control you. This is something we wish to stress. If you can begin to understand why these procedures are undertaken, perhaps you will allow yourselves not to be so frightened. This just goes into the fear that they were asking. But it was a part from a book called Visitors from Within.
Oh, I have that book. Someone gave it to me. I've never read it actually. Very fascinating. Yeah.
There's a lot of very interesting information in that. I would suggest, like, if anyone is interested, they talk about the visitors or the grays, the zetas from like a more in-depth level. A lot of this stuff is like channeled material from a channel called Lisa Royale Holt. And if anyone's like familiar with Bashar, she is like, they reference each other a little bit too. So he's referenced in the book, and it is very similar to some of the stuff that's come across in his channeling too. So they kind of corroborate each other.
Yeah, I think Edgar Mitchell also he quotes someone you don't expect, recommends the book. I think it's a NASA person is on the back of the book recommending it. I don't remember. I remember being like, what? someone with very high credibility recommended the book. Yeah. And so it didn't get me open to that. The other twist to that, yeah, the organic, she called it a gem. So it's not physical technology. It's not exactly like that. It is, this idea that it's organic is more what it feels like inside me, and it interacts. It's pretty wild. Yeah.
It's called Visitors from Within by, hold on, wait, let me put this in the chat.
Yeah.
By Lisa Royale Holt and Keith Priest. But it's a very interesting, like, in-depth look about, like, I just started it, but I from some of the other material that I've read of hers, she goes into it in some other stuff too, because it's constantly something that has to do with us, because what they say in the book and what Bashar says is sort of like this is us at another level in many senses. Even though you're having this experience separate and you interact with them in an alien way, there is actually, like, this is humanity. Like, and I think a lot of experiencers have commented on this too. Like, I've heard this ever since I was young, that that they are from the future. There's like different versions of how they view it, but essentially there are a lot of us that have this experience as human beings, no matter how long you've been here, that have a whole experience that is completely alien to us in other extraterrestrial species. And that's part of what will come into consciousness as we start to, like, fill ourselves out and become more aware of what it fully means to be human, because we don't even really realize that yet. Which is one thing I was going to say about the technology, is that our level of development of technology is in direct concert with our development as ourselves. We can only recognize how to build and create things based on how much we understand about humanity and reality and physics on a consciousness level. So the more aware we become of it, the more we can understand how to do things in a different way. And it seems like they already know that. So this idea of, like, spirituality and a more, like, spiritual mindset, that's, like, from my point of view, that's almost like storytelling. That's just how we would describe, like, a higher state of being. Like, they're one and the same thing. Like, to a person in the Middle Ages, like, your house, Jeff, would have been like a kingdom, like sent from God or something, with these marvelous, like, devices that only a God could have. Like, it seems like otherworldly in many senses, like just having iPhones on us or something as like a species. Like we're impressive to that level, and we live because of that in a very different way than previous generations in our own history have lived. So we would be in many senses alien to ourselves at different points in our own evolution. So as you raise, I think that's part of it, like the awareness of yourself and what your capability is, like psychic ability. It's not psychic, it's human ability. You're using your psychic ability right now at this level on such a rudimentary level that you're not aware that you're actually doing it. So yeah, that's how I see it. So when you become more aware of yourself, it naturally translates into everything you do, and that's how they have understanding of that technology.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Elena.
Hello, Jeff. Thank you so much. This was jam-packed with information, fascinating. But the title of the lecture was about the plans to build an enlightened city. And if you could give very quick commentary about this enlightened city, whether humans would have access to it, whether it's on the 3D, 4D level, 5D, different timelines, what the plan is.
Yeah, great question. I basically say it as I kind of get it in the book. So they say we're coming, like tell them we're coming and tell them we're building a city. That's the kind of the gist of it. The enlightened part of the city is that I experience their consciousness technology, and it's the equivalency of human enlightenment. And so I'm very aware that the city is this. And then I'm imparted with these information pieces throughout, I guess, downloads. Like this stuff was still new to me. So these ideas that I had, these kind of downloads, and I ended up putting them into the book. And partially it's also telepathic communication I get from the beings that this is what it's all about. It's kind of yes, anybody comes to the city. And the idea being that anybody, I think I don't know how to word it in the book anymore, but I explain it that anybody comes to the city, and you don't have to be enlightened, but you have to want to be enlightened. And there's no limits on what type of person comes. They don't think this way. They are thinking about consciousness. And so as long as there's the desire to evolve, then in consciousness, then you fit in. Then the city is open to you and you have all access to everything. I don't know anything about these dimensions. Again, they explain a little bit about the dimensions to me, but they frame everything in terms of electromagnetic fields, and they frame it in terms of the field of the planet is changing. And they do show me a bit about the Schumann resonance. I had to learn that. I was information I gained from a contact event. Then I had to go do the research about and learned it was accurate. And there's a Schumann resonance, which is the low frequency band of the planet, and that they're changing that. And so that there's some kind of shift going on. They don't tell me, they don't explain to me this dimension or that dimension or this dimension. And they does seem to be in the future, as in around the corner. But again, I kind of, it seems to me that there's a picture being painted of a struggle within humanity that resolves itself in this way. Now, I won't say it here, but it's in the book, a little bit of a detail about that struggle. And it seems to be planetary by nature. And then something happens, and then then they build the city. And so there's kind of, again, I'm not trying to prophesize except for just explain it as they kind of gave it to me. And and the idea being is that enlightenment, in the sense that that's the level that they're already on, and that's the level that the technology that they're operating is on. And so this kind of merging of societies is to bring us up on this higher level, and the city itself is a symbol of that, I guess. And so that they're coming, and it's an enlightened city that you don't have to be enlightened, but you have to want to evolve your consciousness. And as long as you do, you fit in. That's kind of the premise. It sounds cheesy, but I'm really convinced that actually is the premise, is that evolution of consciousness is a must for this kind of next phase. And if people desire not to evolve, no problem, but you just can't involve yourself with the consciousness technology. You'll kill yourself with consciousness technology if you aren't using your consciousness, if you aren't used to feeling unity and kind of getting to the depth of your own psyche, then those things will be a shock to you, to use this, to be involving yourself with a consciousness society or a technology society that's involving consciousness. So that's how I understand it. And I kind of frame it in a bunch of different ways in the book. And that's the premise of it. Other than that, they don't give me anything other other. I know they do this with other contactees. They show them the future, they show them this healing, and they show these things. And I get none of that stuff. I get this kind of more direct about the conflict that's happening, and then the as resolution is a city on the planet, and my experience with the consciousness technology.
That's why I'm here listening to you.
Awesome. Awesome, Barry. Thanks, man. Great.
Really great, Jeff, that you stick to the story, to exactly what they gave you. I think that's great. A lot of people wander off a little bit, but you're sticking to it, and you're not really trying to predict anything. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks, Mimi. And by the way, I didn't even say it in the presentation, and I meant to. I don't know what any of this is, right? Like I say it in the book, I don't know if this is them trying to, none of this is going to happen. And it's all to motivate the public. Maybe they want to motivate people, or maybe it's just symbolic. There's not going to be a city, but it'll be some kind of version of things like this. Or it's exactly as they say it. And I really kind of leave it up to the reader to kind of figure it out for themselves, because I don't really know. I don't want to go around prophesizing. So I kind of say it as I got it. And that's where it ends there. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Summer.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you brought something up in another talk that you were talking about, Balbazar Area 51. I think that was something you referenced before. But if you're
before, yeah.
Am I correct? Yeah.
I have, yeah.
Do you remember the description of him walking into the craft and how he said that there was no right angles anywhere?
Oh, right.
He said,
curved, smooth, yeah.
He said that in that same talk that I remember. He said that it gave me a kind of like eerie kind of feeling, like almost like I didn't feel excited. I felt almost like a little bit sinister. And from my point of view, that's him that he's feeling.
Right.
It's like
yes.
That's the consciousness, like projecting against just a
yes.
clean understanding, and it's bringing back what separates him from like connecting to that.
Yeah.
Because
Agreed.
That's exactly built out of the kind of consciousness that you need to have. Like there can't be right corners or anything like that. Like it will literally chop your progression in half, like literally.
Yeah.
But we operate like that in our world because we're very primitive in comparison to like how they function. And when you talk about the city like in that way, that's what I think. Like to many people, they would perceive it as being evil, even though it was like a beautiful, benevolent city. It will bring up all the opposite feelings inside of them because we don't realize we're in a projection of ourselves, and we instantly see like what we don't see inside of ourselves, like on the outside, on the clean surface.
Yeah. And part of it, you got it, man. And I've mentioned this before, that there's, people say, there was someone on, I was watching George Noon's, I don't know who I was watching. I think it was Paul Emery, I think his name is. And he's the military guy who kind of came out and said some things about crafts. Anyway, someone was in the audience and they said, this entity was in my room, and it was the evilest entity I'd ever seen in my life. It just oozed this darkness. And people have to realize, like, the projection, what's going on here is a psychology, right? Like, people are scared of ghosts. Why are you scared of a ghost? What's really going on with ghosts? The truth is, it's just a presence as much as you are, an entity as much as you are. But what it's doing is it's shocking a part of your psyche about a part of yourself you haven't looked at, which is, do you exist outside of your body? So then you have this kind of projection going on about a fear of your own that you haven't brought in yet, a fear of your own that you haven't made a part of yourself. So then you push it outwards. The aliens will do this because the aliens are intimidatingly more intelligent than we are. They have this kind of overarching feel in their presence. It's intimidating. That is what it is. But their hearts are like these beautiful children hearts. But if you aren't in touch with any of that inside of yourself, you project it all outwards, and you think it's terrifying. And I actually just have empathy, because it's just a human psychological issue. It's that you need to kind of come back. You need to be fearless. You need to recognize kind of fearlessness in this process. And if you're not, you're going to project out what you think the beings reflect. And you're right, man. You nailed it. You're only projecting your own problems and your own issues. Yeah, it's great, man. Kristen, you have a question.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to thank you for presenting today.
Yeah.
I listened to, the first thing I watched was Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers,
Yeah.
and have been obsessed ever since.
That was,
And
yeah, I mentioned that in my book, and that's what started this whole process of memories waking up. Was that very move, that Jerry and Corbell, right? That
Yes.
documentary. Yeah, you
Yes.
got it. Yeah.
And I just wish they had a phone number so that I could call them and talk to them directly, because I want to be able to make contact with them, and there's just no way to do it that I'm aware of, and it would be great. But I'm very appreciative that you're bringing us this information. That's all I had to say.
Thanks, Kristen. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. That's great. Whew. Should we call it, guys? People are dwindling, slowly leaving.
I think we should. We're exactly 3 hours now, so
yeah,
it's good.
I'm going to end the recording before we sign off.
Well, thank you, Jeff.
Oh, wait a minute. How do you? It doesn't. So it says
I'll
recording.
end it for everybody. Just hang on. We'll just edit stuff out. It doesn't matter.
No, I'm so it's recording, but I can't end the recording on my side.
No, because I have to end it.
Okay, and then I'll be able to download it. Is that the idea?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It should be on your computer, and when I end, it'll end for you too.
Oh, I'll have that conversion thing on my computer here. Okay, gotcha.
Just to Kristen before we leave, maybe just try to make contact to anyone who's like in their vicinity, or try to, like tell your story, like get your information to people. It might take like a little bit of like a zigzagging path to get there, but it may get to them eventually if you take like some action on it. It might organize to like allow that kind of interaction if it's necessary in any kind of way.
Yeah. I've actually that's great, Summer. Yeah, maybe you can feel that.
Kid speech for a beer.
Thank you.
But you're referring to people in the know. Is that what you're saying, Summer? Like kind of
No. What she was talking about, trying to
Christian,
connect with those, with those people in particular. So
yeah. Great.
Especially if you're drawn to them in some way. Like, I mean, you may have something for each other that will like help both of you. So it might be a good idea to see what you can act on, like with integrity, to like connect with them in a certain way, like whatever way you can.
Well, Kristen, you're certainly invited to come and talk with us, and then we'll post the video, and that's one way to get started.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I've gotten tons of information, and I just, some people are being contacted by these other beings, and I wish I was one of them. That's all I was saying.
Well, I have to say, I did a regression with Dr. Boylan, and he does Star Kids. So he was very interested in me because I have children, but my children are not really doing this at all. So I didn't end up working with him very long. But one thing that he said to me is that people are activating when it's their time, because I'm an older person, and I was like, when is it when am I going to start doing my work? And then it just happened. When it was time for me to start doing my work, it really literally just happened.
Well, getting it in touch with these different groups, and I'm actually going Mount Rainier in Seattle. We're going camping up there in July, and hopefully I'll be meeting people that have had experiences, and maybe something will come of it, but I'll keep trying.
Great.
There's people that would want to make contact with you as well.
Good. Because it's nice to be able to talk to people that don't think you're crazy.
Not I'm telling you that message like directly, like that's what like if you're willing to go down that path, not just people who have had contact, but people who want to make contact. So if that's something that you're interested in, there are, I should say, beings maybe that would like be interested in that with you.
Well,
I
guess there's plenty of people that have, like he said, Jeff said, these chips in them, and they hear everything and they see everything. Well, hopefully someone will hear me sometime.
It's not so much that you have to understand that they're kind of their kind of experience of reality would
Yes.
be, from your experience, somewhat detrimental to you, like how you experience life. So you have to kind of take some actions to make that kind of connection. There's like a certain process, like for the people who are involved in it, like I think you've heard by this point, like most people have some kind of struggle, like having those kinds of experiences in all kinds of different ways that we would just, how we translate into that kind of experience of reality. So you have to take like steps so that it counts as like you're voting sort of to like have that kind of interaction if you want that. So maybe just, yeah, take advantage of like acting in that direction if that's something that like you're very interested in. That's what I would say, because there are like, there's as much interest that you have on the outside for you. And that's like, that is like how, that's how they experience. They're very, very, very excited and interested to have even this kind of level of contact through me.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, take it seriously, take steps. If that's something that you're interested in, like take those steps, because you have more ability than you would think you do to have those kinds of interactions, if that's something you desire.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I just sent you a little message for prepare to change. Also.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
Well,
Thank you.
guys, what about ending?
Sure. Yeah.
Parting is such sweet sorrow.
That's great. Thanks for hosting me.
You've done such a
Thanks
great
for hosting me,
job.
Brian.
No one
Very
wants
good
to
talk.
leave this room.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
everybody for being here. Thanks for all coming. Thank you so much. So powerful.
Okay.
Thank you for coming to us.
Yeah. Yeah. You got it. You got it. My pleasure. 100%.
See you guys.
Awesome.
Much love to everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Namaste.